Let me start with something that is going to make a lot of men uncomfortable. Curious. Most men do not actually struggle with women. They struggle with reading signals. And because they misread signals, they misread situations, they misread interest, they misread everything. And then they walk away confused, frustrated, and convinced that women are impossible to understand. But here is what psychology actually says. Women are not mysterious. They are not emotional riddles wrapped in confusion. They are human beings operating on patterns, psychological patterns, behavioral patterns, patterns that are completely readable once you know what to look for. Thoughtful. The problem is not women. The problem is that most men were never taught what to look for. They were taught to listen to words. Psychology teaches us to watch behavior, and behavior, not words, always tells the truth. Today, we are going to change that. I am going to walk you through 6 specific psychological principles that will allow you to read any woman's emotional state, her interest level, her comfort, and her boundaries accurately, quickly, and without asking a single awkward question. This is not manipulation. This is not a game. This is awareness. And once you develop it, you will never feel confused in an interaction with a woman again. Stay with me through all 6, because the final one is the one most men never think about, and it is the one that changes your presence completely. Intro. Welcome back to Secrets Inside the Mind. I am Liza. Every single day on this channel, we have honest, real conversations about human psychology, attraction, and the truths about connection that most people are too afraid to say clearly. If you are not subscribed yet, please do that right now and turn on your notifications. I post every day, and I genuinely want you here for every conversation. Now, let us get into this. The foundation: why words lie, but behavior never does. Before we get to the 6 principles, I need to lay one foundation that makes everything else make sense. Psychology tells us that communication is overwhelmingly nonverbal. Research has consistently shown that tone, pacing, posture, eye contact, and physical orientation carry far more information than the actual words being spoken. What someone says can be carefully managed. What their body does in the same moment, that is almost impossible to control. This is especially true in emotionally charged situations. When a woman is deciding how she feels about someone, whether she feels safe, whether she feels interested, whether she feels comfortable or pressured, that decision happens in her nervous system before her conscious mind has formed a single thought about it, and it shows up in her body long before it shows up in her words. Most men focus on what she is saying. The psychologically aware man focuses on what her body, her energy, and her behavior are communicating simultaneously, and those 2 things are often telling completely different stories. This is not about becoming a human lie detector or hyperanalyzing every micro expression. It is simply about shifting your attention from the surface of the interaction, the words, to the substance of the interaction, what is actually being felt and communicated beneath them. With that foundation in place, let us go through the 6 principles. Principle 1: read her emotional state before you read anything else. This is the most important principle on this entire list, and if you miss it, you miss everything else. Most men walk into an interaction focused on one question: does she like me? But psychology says that is the wrong first question entirely. The right first question is much simpler. What emotional state is she in right now? Because here is the truth. Attraction, comfort, and connection are all heavily influenced by emotional state. If she is stressed, overwhelmed, distracted, or irritated, it does not matter how confident you are, how interesting your conversation is, or how good the timing feels to you. The emotional environment is wrong, and nothing you do will override that. But if she is relaxed, open, and present, the interaction flows naturally, not because you did something perfectly, but because the emotional conditions are right. So before you try to impress her, before you try to create chemistry, before you try to read whether she is interested, read her emotional temperature first. Here is what to look for: energy level. Is she animated or flat? Does her voice rise and fall naturally or stay monotone? Does she expand on her answers or keep them short and closed? Physical openness. Are her shoulders relaxed or tense? Is her posture open and facing you or slightly closed and angled away? Responsiveness. Does she ask follow-up questions or simply answer yours? Does her energy match or mirror yours in any way? None of these signals in isolation tells you everything. A woman with crossed arms might be cold. A woman giving short answers might be genuinely busy. This is why you observe patterns rather than reacting to single moments. But here is something powerful about focusing on emotional state first. When you shift your attention from "does she like me" to "what is her emotional temperature right now," your own anxiety drops because you are no longer waiting for her to validate you. You are simply observing the environment, and that shift in focus from self-consciousness to awareness makes you calmer. And calm, as we will come back to, is one of the most attractive qualities a man can carry. Subscribe reminder. Before we move to Principle 2, please subscribe to Secrets Inside the Mind right now. I am Liza. I post every single day, and every video is a real honest conversation about human psychology and attraction. Hit that button and let us keep going. Principle 2. Interest is shown through effort, not words. Here is something most men will not admit. You have probably walked away from an interaction wondering, was she actually interested or was she just being polite? And you probably could not tell the difference. That confusion does not come from women being unpredictable. It comes from listening to words instead of watching investment. And psychology is very clear on this. Interest is shown through effort, not through what someone says, through what they do. Words are easy, effort costs energy, and human beings invest energy in what they genuinely value. So here is what genuine interest actually looks like in behavior. She continues the conversation instead of letting it naturally die. She adds detail to her answers rather than giving minimal responses. She asks questions about you in return, not just answering yours. She remembers small things you mentioned earlier in the conversation. She initiates sometimes, even in small ways, a text, a comment, a reason to keep talking. None of these are dramatic. None of them are obvious flirting, but all of them require effort, and effort is the most honest signal interest produces. Here is the contrast that makes this crystal clear. If you are always the one leading, always initiating, always carrying the energy of the conversation, that is a data point. It does not mean she is a bad person. It does not mean you have failed. It simply means the investment is not balanced, and balanced investment is what genuine connection is built on. Here is the part that might sting a little. A woman who is truly interested will make things easier for you, not harder, not by chasing you, not by being dramatically obvious, but by reducing friction. She will not consistently leave you guessing. She will not create confusion every time. She will not make you feel like you are trying to convince someone of something. When interest is real, you do not feel like you are performing. You feel like you are building something together. And that feeling, that sense of mutual forward movement, is the most honest signal of genuine interest there is. Principle 3. Her body speaks before she does. Learn the 3 key signals. We talked about emotional state and investment. Now let us get specific about the physical signals that communicate both, because these are the ones most men walk right past. There are three physical signals that are consistently reliable indicators of genuine comfort and connection. The first is mirroring. When a woman feels genuinely at ease with someone, her body begins to mirror his unconsciously. She crosses her legs in the same direction. She picks up her drink shortly after he does. She shifts her posture when he shifts his. She leans in when he leans in. This is driven by mirror neurons, neural pathways that fire when we observe someone we feel positively connected to. It is completely automatic. She is not deciding to do it. And because it is automatic, it is one of the most honest signals her body produces. The second is orientation, where her body points, tells you where her attention actually is. When a woman is genuinely engaged with someone, her torso, her shoulders, and especially her feet will orient toward him, even during moments when she is talking to someone else. The face can be managed, the feet almost never lie. In a group setting, in a conversation with multiple people, notice whether her physical orientation consistently comes back to you. That quiet, consistent pointing is a very honest vote. The third is the quality of her stillness. This one is subtle but profound. Most people in social situations carry a low-level tension in their bodies, a slight self-management, a quiet awareness of how they are being perceived. When a woman is around someone she feels genuinely safe with, that tension eases. Her shoulders drop slightly, her breathing slows, her expressions become less managed. She stops adjusting herself. That settling, that quiet ease in her physical presence is one of the most meaningful signals of genuine comfort. It cannot be performed. It simply happens when the nervous system decides it is safe. Principle 4. Understand what her responses tell you about her boundaries. This is the principle most men get wrong, not because they are careless, but because they misinterpret what boundaries actually mean. A boundary is not an obstacle. It is not a test to overcome or a wall to break through. Psychologically, a boundary is information. It tells you her comfort level, her standards, and her emotional maturity, and her reaction to how you respond to her boundaries tells her everything she needs to know about your emotional maturity. Here is the thing that most men do not realize. When a woman sets a boundary, she says she needs to leave, she changes the subject, she declines something, she slows the pace. She is not primarily making a decision about you. She is observing your reaction. Does he respect it calmly? Does he get defensive? Does he push back? Does he withdraw dramatically? Does he become slightly cold? Your response to her boundary communicates your emotional stability far more clearly than anything you could say about yourself. A man who receives a boundary calmly, who says simply that is completely fine and continues with genuine ease, signals maturity, security, and genuine confidence. A man who reacts with frustration, pressure, or passive withdrawal signals fragility, and fragility is immediately felt. Subscribe reminder. We are halfway through, and the final two principles are honestly the most powerful ones on this entire list. Before we get there, please subscribe to Secrets Inside the Mind if you have not already. I am here every single day. Subscribe and let us keep going. Here is something worth sitting with. If you find yourself consistently frustrated when women set boundaries, it is worth asking honestly whether that frustration is about her or about a deeper need for things to go a specific way. Because that need, that inability to remain emotionally stable when something does not go as hoped, is often what pushes people away, not the boundary itself. Respecting boundaries without resistance communicates three things simultaneously. You are secure in yourself. You are emotionally stable. You have genuine respect for the person in front of you. And those three things create more genuine attraction than any amount of persistence ever will. Principle 5. Stop projecting your psychology onto her. Observe her individual patterns instead. This is the principle that most men have never been told, and it quietly explains a massive amount of confusion. Most men interpret a woman's behavior through their own emotional framework. When she goes quiet, they assume she is upset because that is what going quiet means for them. When she is direct, they assume she is being cold because directness feels abrupt in their experience. When she pulls back, they assume she is losing interest because that is what pulling back means in how they communicate. But psychology warns strongly against this. This is called projection. Reading someone else's behavior through the lens of your own emotional patterns, and it leads to consistent misreading. Men and women are socialized differently. Emotional expression can look completely different between individuals regardless of gender. Conflict responses differ, communication styles differ. The way someone processes emotions and the way they express them can be entirely separate things. If you are judging her behavior through your own lens rather than observing her specific individual patterns, you will misread almost everything. You will read her silence as anger when it is simply her way of processing. You will read her directness as coldness when it is simply how she communicates clearly. You will read her independence as disinterest when it is simply how she maintains her sense of self in connection. The shift that changes this is simple, but requires genuine discipline. Instead of asking, "What does this behavior mean based on my experience?" ask, "What does this behavior mean for her, specifically based on her consistent patterns? Does her energy rise when you speak or stay neutral? Does she become more open over time or more guarded? Does she reciprocate investment or consistently let it sit one-sided?" These patterns, her patterns, not projections of yours, are what tell you who she actually is and how she actually feels. Observation without projection is one of the rarest and most powerful social skills a person can develop. And when a woman senses that a man is genuinely trying to understand her rather than filtering her through his own assumptions, she feels seen in a way that almost nothing else creates. Principle 6. Master yourself because she is always reading you back. And now we arrive at the principle that ties everything else together, the one most men never think about, the one that changes not just how you read women, but how you are experienced by them. While you are reading her, she is reading you, constantly, and women are exceptionally good at it. Her nervous system is continuously assessing one primary question: is this man emotionally stable, not confident in the performative sense, stable, grounded, able to stay regulated when things are uncertain, able to receive a no without destabilizing, able to be fully present without needing constant reassurance that the interaction is going well? Every signal she sends is partly an assessment of how you receive it. Does he get nervous when I go quiet? Does he push harder when I pull back slightly? Does he need me to validate him, or does he seem genuinely comfortable in himself? Does his energy change based on my reactions, or does he stay consistently grounded? This is why emotional regulation is the single most important thing you can develop, not for social strategy, but because it is what creates the felt sense of safety that allows genuine connection to form. Here is the practical application. The next time you're in a conversation with a woman, instead of focusing on what to say next, focus on how you are feeling in that moment. Are you tense? Slow your breathing slightly. Are you scanning for signals obsessively? Bring your attention back to the present moment, what she is actually saying right now, not what it might mean. Are you trying to manage how you are coming across? Release that. Simply be present. When you regulate your own nervous system, you influence hers. Calm creates calm. Groundedness creates safety. And safety, as we have said throughout this entire conversation, is the foundation of genuine attraction. A man who can stay grounded under social pressure is rare. A man who can receive uncertainty without reacting, who can hold space without needing to fill it, who can be completely present without needing the interaction to go a specific way. That man communicates something through his presence that no amount of clever conversation can replicate. He communicates that he is safe to be around, and that felt sense of safety is what opens every door that persistent effort, clever lines, and social strategy never will. Bringing it all together. Let me bring all 6 principles together. Principle 1. Read her emotional state before anything else. The environment determines the interaction. Principle 2. Interest is shown through effort, not words. Watch investment, not flattery. Principle 3. Her body speaks before she does. Mirroring, orientation, and stillness are your most honest signals. Principle 4. Boundaries are information, not obstacles. How you receive them reveals everything about your emotional maturity. Principle 5. Observe her individual patterns, not projections of your own. She is not you. Read her specifically. Principle 6. Master yourself because she is always reading you back. Your regulation is your most powerful signal. The common thread running through all 6 is the same shift. From self-focus to awareness, from needing an outcome to simply being present, from trying to win the interaction to genuinely understanding it. That shift, from reaction to observation, from performance to presence, is what separates men who consistently feel confused by women from men who feel genuinely connected to them. Women were never hard to understand. You just needed to know what to look for. Outro. Now I want to hear from you honestly. Have you ever misread politeness as attraction? Have you ever chased low investment, hoping it would turn into something more? Have you ever ignored a subtle signal and only understood it later? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one and I genuinely care about what you share. If this video gave you something real today, please give it a like, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe to Secrets Inside the Mind if you have not already. I am here every single day. I am Liza. I will see you tomorrow.